Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors, your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. I'm Winston Chester. I'm glad you're here this morning. Got a great show lined up, and we'll get started with our weather, brought to us by Haney Technical Center at 767-5500. Today's weather is going to be 63 high and a low of 44, so it's still cool, and it's really still it's sort of nice weather now, but with that warming trend, it's right around the corner, and the water temperature has gone up a degree. Now we're going to start seeing a little bit of movement in it. Today is 62 degrees, and the first time it's gone up in about a week or so. Take a look at our river readings. They're still high over there. The Apalachicola, the big river, stayed at it's reading this morning at 12.2. and maybe a slight drop, but it's only going to drop to about 10 or 11 by the weekend, so it's not much. The big river's high, so just be okay. The Choctawhatchee is actually going up, folks. It'll drop down a little bit below 10, but today it's reading 10.5 and going up to 11.3 by Friday. So it's going to, both rivers going to be really high, and if you want to get back and fish in those sloughs, it'd be a good time to do it, because it'll be some really good fishing up in there if you get up in there. Water's back in there where it hadn't been in quite some time. Okay, take a look at our tides for today. Today is March the 14th. We're about halfway through March, believe it or not. We have a high tide at 11:24 this morning and a low tide at 8:46 tonight. We got a little bit of tidal movement. It's going to be a good dropping, outgoing tide. You can see on the chart there, it's dropping out pretty fast at about a 0.8 foot range, and then the weekend, Friday and Saturday, both looks good with some tide, and all next week looks good. Okay, on the phone once a week, we'd like to call down on the Eastern Viewing area and talk to Captain Blair Morgan for the Blue Water Outrigger Outdoor Report from down that way. Good morning, Blair.
Good morning, Winston. How y'all this morning?
We're doing well. How's it going down your way?
Well, finally got a little bit of fishing news. The Spanish have showed up out here in the bay. They're catching some off the wall right there at the marina and on the deep channel on the west side of Black's Island. All right. So that's a good sign.
That's the first report of Spanish that we've gotten right there. So that is a good sign, and that means they ought to be up in here about a weekend, hopefully. But that's a good sign for you guys down that way.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's good. And, of course, the weather, we've had one front, just one right after another. The wind's been blowing like crazy, and, so the weather's been very unstable. But the long-range forecast is, towards the weekend, it's supposed to be pretty. So it'd be a good time to go out and try to catch some of them. Yeah,
now you were telling me you were on the river yesterday. Is the river still high down there?
Yeah, I was on the river, and a friend of mine, he logs, he gets those cypress. He's got a permit to get the cypress trees out of the swamp over there, and it's still real high, but it's dropping pretty quick.
Yeah.
But I found it real interesting. I've never seen it done before, but some of those logs he's getting, he said, are 800-900 years old.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
Is.
And I guess he probably has a good market to sell those, and a lot of people use them.
Yeah, they do. Because he sells them sawmills. They come up, gets pretty cypress wood out of them.
Yeah, I bet. All right, what's going on? Any kind of surf fishing?
There's a lot of people surf fishing, and right now all they've been catching is catfish and whiting, pretty much.
Okay.
Off the surf, and Apalachicola Bay has really got slow. Nobody's catching anything over there. The water's been real dirty and a lot of fresh water over that way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that sounds good.
Reports up in the canal here at St. Joe, they're catching a lot of sheephead and some redfish, trout still up there. So.
Okay.
And they're catching some flounder out here in the bay too.
Well, that's pretty strong right there.
Yeah. So
okay.
It's coming on. This weekend ought to really be good.
Yeah, the next couple of weeks going to be outstanding, I think. Going to really bust loose.
Yeah,
all right, Blair. I appreciate it, buddy.
Okay.
See you later. All right. Captain Blair Morgan, everything going on down there, that's a good sign with the Spanish coming in and some good information there. Let's take our first break, and we'll be back with our special guest. All right, welcome back and welcome Lieutenant Stan Kirkland.
Good morning. Good morning, Winston. Good to be with you.
Glad to have you today. All kind of stuff going on the FWC side. So
listening to Blair, you know, we're starting. I know some of the officers have talked to. They're starting to see people that are, you know, people are ready to fish. I know one of the guys told me the other day that was checking people, and only one person out of about 8 or 9 boats, 8 or 9 kayaks. Only one person had speckled trout or spotted sea trout, but he said everybody was catching fish. They were just 12, 13, 14-inch fish, and they were releasing them. And he said, but everybody was good. That was down toward Crooked Island.
Yeah. Well, the sign.
And Pompano too. Already, I've heard. One person in particular talked about catching some pompano a few weeks ago. Also, there's some permit have showed up. I don't know if you've talked to Scott about this.
Yeah, we showed the pictures.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
okay.
Did. Yeah,
all right, good.
Surprisingly showing up. You know,
yeah, most people. I've never even seen a pompano caught in our local waters.
Permit.
Permit. But these permit, you know, get quite large. The bag limit's 1 a day. This was I believe, a commercial fisherman that was catching them. He has a license that allows him to keep more than 1. And but if you catch a permit and limited 1 pompano, of course, is a 6-fish bag. Okay.
That's right. Well, we got turkey. So we just finished the weekend youth turkey hunt. And how were the reports on it?
Yeah, the reports I've heard so far, it was a little cool this weekend, but one young man from Vernon, I think his name is Zach Weeks. I don't know Zach personally, but Justin Davis and Mallory Wilkins sent us this photo that we've got. This is Zach killed this bird up at the Carter track. Yeah. Again, it's we have a small quota for youth up there on youth weekend, and this bird weighed 17 pounds, had a 9-inch beard, and just absolutely a beautiful bird. By the way, this is Zach's second bird from that era. He killed one when he was a little old guy in 2009.
Well, he's not real big right now.
Well, I know, but he's growing up and a good-looking young man. But he killed a bird, and he's quite a hunter.
Well, that's good.
I don't know whether it was his dad with him or who was with him, but. Don't know the story there, but Zach's, I understand, a nice young man and loves to hunt. And
good job, Zach.
Good
job.
Yep. And but as you mentioned, Winston, I know you and Ronnie talked about this this week. Turkey season is upon us. It'll open Saturday. We have a 37-day season, a 2-bird bag. The birds have been gobbling off and on, but with the cold weather, they've been a little bit suppressed. But there'll be a lot of people out this weekend that'll be going.
And you say some people see them on a game camera, too.
Yeah. Now, we have a photo. This photo came from Washington County and was caught on a game camera of a couple of birds that came out at an intersection. And the person had put the camera where he had been seeing tracks there, and he actually caught 2 real nice gobblers where they were coming out in the intersection.
But
those are probably
healthy.
Big, thick beards, just very symbolic of what our turkeys look like. The color's a little bit off on this, being a game camera and the time of day, but beautiful birds. So we'll have those birds, by the way, probably are 3-year-old birds. Up until the time when they're 1 year old, and even usually 2-year-old, the fan, you'll see that the fan will not be fully formed. The fan will have a little bit of a variation in it. In other words, part of the fan, the turkey fan, the tail, will not be the same height as the other feathers. So it'll be a little bit irregular. But when they're 3 years old, like these birds, they're just beautiful dominant, or beautiful mature birds, rather.
Okay. What's the lifespan of a turkey, usually?
Well, Winston, you know, I don't know, but in a hunted population, I would guess that it's probably 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And, of course, the spur length, generally, it's not a perfect indicator of age, but the older the bird, the longer the spur up to a point.
Yeah.
Now, usually what we see are birds that about 1 1/8 or 1 1/4, but sometimes they get longer. A few years ago, a guy called us and he asked he asked if I could help him document his bird for the National Wild Turkey Federation. Not only did it have multiple beards, but it had one spur that was 2 1/8 inches long, and it had another spur that was 1 5/8 inches. And so I had never seen anything like it. It looked like spurs that you'd fit on a, that you would fit on it or somehow.
Was that here in the Panhandle?
That was actually over in Walton County on Eglin Air Force Base, but the guy told me where he killed it, but I told him I wouldn't say. But anyway, it was over on the east side of the base in Walton County, and it was a bird he had hunted for a while, and finally he got him in close enough. But I'd never seen anything like it.
That's amazing.
Yep.
All right, look, let's take this break now, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Glad you're with us this morning. Here with Stan Kirkland, and we were talking about fishing now. We've gone from turkey to fishing. So what's going on fishing?
Well, Winston, one of the things that we rolled out this year was called our Trophy Catch program. It's a program to promote or recognize the largest largemouth bass that are caught here in the state. Already it's been amazing. We've had probably close to 50 fish that weigh over 8 pounds that have been recognized in the first weeks of the program. This again started back in October. In February, we had a person, actually he was from New Jersey, that was fishing over on Rodman Reservoir with a guide, and he caught a bass that weighed 13 pounds, 14 ounces.
Wow.
So that tells you there's some big fish. Interestingly, just a week or so ago, our guys were, I say guys, there's some, I'm going to get in trouble with our ladies that work with us, but some of our staff were shocking, tagging bass, looking at bass over on the Okalotney River in Lake Talquin, and they shocked a fish and weighed it and then put it back that weighed over 14 pounds.
No kidding.
It's the biggest bass that we've ever recovered in this region.
Now everybody's headed to Lake Talquin this weekend.
it was a big bass. In fact, there'll be more coming out in the next few weeks about a project we've got on Lake Talquin where we're actually bringing fish from the hatchery down in Central Florida. They're putting a special tag in the jaw of the fish. It's a microscopic wire tag, so they know that fish was put there by FWC, and they're growing those then in a hatchery over at Holt. And then when those fish are ready, they're releasing those, and now those fish are really beginning to show up in the creel. So that's one of the things that we're doing. But we've got the fish that weigh 8 to, talking about trophy catch, 8 to 9.9 pounds. We call those, we've got 31 of those so far come out so far that people have called Lunker Club fish, 24 fish that weigh 10 to 12.9 pounds, and then those, we call them Hall of Fame fish, those that weigh 13 pounds and over. We've had just a few of those fish, but because those are the biggest fish, and of course this project will only run during the coldest months of the year. These are females, obviously. You don't see these big females because they've spawned out. Their condition is not as good in the summer months. So, but it's primarily during the colder months of the year. But if you catch a big bass, go to Trophy Catch, or you can look this up on your phone and call us, and we'll have somebody meet you, weigh your fish, and then the important thing is you release your fish. You don't kill the fish. Taxidermists can take, if you take just a couple of measurements, they can fit a mold or create a mold of your fish.
Okay, okay. So all you got to do is just get a hold of FWC and all that.
It's called Trophy Catch. Go to trophycatch.com. And most people have their phone now where they can make a picture, but we'll have somebody meet you, keep the fish alive though.
And it's a, they get a certificate or something? Or?
Yeah, they do, and if those fish weigh over 13 pounds, they're invited to a banquet. And we recognize those Hall of Fame fishermen. This gentleman, Mr. Williams from New Jersey, will be invited to come back to Florida and attend a special banquet. We also have, one of the things that we do is we have prizes for those people that catch 13-pound fish. I don't know all of the prizes, but it's a mount. We provide them a mount. We have partners that do this, but provide them a mount. They get a very nice rod and reel and some other things. It's about $1,000 in prizes they get if you catch and document through trophy catch and successfully release that fish.
Okay, all right. We'll keep that in mind. And I know everybody's going to be ahead of Lake Tarquin now, but I know Deer Point Lake and Lake Seminole both have some really large bass in them.
Yeah, I was talking to a person that does my investment stuff for me just a week or so ago, and he was telling me he's been catching some really incredible, beautiful, big fish, big bass out of Seminole. And anyway, well, he's glad everybody hunts so he can go and fish in peace.
Yeah.
So anyway.
I understand. All right, look, we'll take our final break and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. First thing, let's go ahead and take a look at our fishing time forecast for today, brought to us by Mark Coward at Edgewater Beach Realty at 832-6000. Mark is an excellent fisherman himself, and our time this morning has already passed. It was 2:40 to 4:40, but this afternoon we're looking at 3:04 to 5:04. 3:04 to 5:04 this afternoon, Stan, so you can get off work a little bit early. You're right there at Deer Point Lake, so all you got to do is just walk across the driveway.
You'd be surprised how many people go down there and catch fish there. I see them down there. I stopped one day and a guy was catching redfish. He was catching the little, they call them rat reds. They're about 12 inches long. And he was using ultralight tackle and a little jig with shrimp on it. And I bet he caught 10 while I was standing there.
Right there by the dam over there?
Right below the dam in the tail race now. Yeah. That was just before the water got so high, but but a lot of people do fish down there.
I know it. I see them there all the time. Yeah. Let's take a look at this. Stan's going to be in this. This is something
well,
really good.
Passion
Play.
Yeah, that's why I got this little bit of facial hair. I'm going to be in the Panama City Passion Play. It's coming up March 21, 22, and 23, no cost. It's the last 3 days. It's a depiction of the last 3 days before Christ was crucified, leading up to the crucifixion. And again, it's Panama City
and I've been to that.
Civic Center.
St. Andrew Baptist Church puts it on, and they do a super job. If you've never been, you really need to go. It's just awesome. I mean, so many people there, and the music is so beautiful. And
it's about 150 people in the cast, so it's quite an effort.
Yeah.
But thanks for mentioning that.
Okay, so be sure to see it. Now, we're talking about snapper season, of course, still in the air. We talked about that before, but you hadn't heard anything lately on
No, it's still in the air. There was, we were told that there's going to be another stock assessment that'll be provided to the agency before the April meeting. I don't know whether that'll happen. I don't know whether that will have any impact.
If that does happen, that may be good news.
I know our commissioners are they expressed some frustration at the last meeting that that things seem to be, changing a lot. Some of the other states, I know Texas and Louisiana, have decided to go a different route and not follow the federal example for seasons or the federal model for seasons. So I don't, right now, and it's tentative, we have a 44-day season set, but I don't know whether when the commissioners meet in April, whether that will be the season we adopt or not. But as soon as we know, we'll let you know.
And speaking of the agency, I know we mentioned this before the show. Your officers and the California officers, y'all, with that fight with the fugitive they had, the wildlife officers.
Winston, it was in the news, right? That ex-police officer, the fugitive, his name was Chris Dorner, and he killed several California police officers and all the. And one of the things that officers now in most state agencies and ours, they go through a lot of training, it's very intense training. It's called reality-based training, but they also have training in using what a lot of the media now call assault weapons, but they're semi-automatic rifles is all they are. But they have training in these. And had those two California officers not had those firearms, that may have turned out differently. They were able to. They engaged in a firefight with that fugitive. He then went to a cabin, and of course, he killed another officer while he was in the cabin, and then killed himself. But anyway, good training. Now we just put out a story though about the things officers involved in. A couple of years ago, we had an officer that thankfully he had kept his head. He was shot by a 23-year-old suspect. And suspect was only wanted for missing a a failure to go to court and pay a traffic ticket. But he shot the officer, shot him the first time in the hand. When the officer went to draw his weapon, the officer saw the guy had a gun and broke the officer's hand. The officer turned to get away from him. He shot the officer in the left side, broke his left arm, and then he shot the officer 8 or 9 more times. 6 rounds hit him in the body, but his vest saved his life. And
Wow.
He also had a coin. The officer's name was Van Street. He had a coin in his back pocket, and the coin was issued by our agency to the officers when they finished. One of the rounds hit him in that coin where he was unprotected over his hip, but it bent the coin in almost a perfect U shape.
Wow.
But that coin saved his life and took the full impact of that 45. And then the officer, though, was able to get away from the guy. The guy shot at him additional times, but he was caught the next day. The officer had the presence of mind, even with a broken hand and a broken arm, to activate his mic. He could tell the dispatch where to bring a helicopter, and they took him to the hospital down below Daytona. Wow. And he made a great recovery. And today Van Streety is a lieutenant with us. He was promoted, and he's a lieutenant with us down in the Miami area. But he's a great officer and a person I've gotten to know over the last couple of years, talking to him through this.
That's a great story, and it typifies what officers go through. A lot of times we think game wardens is going to go up there and check license in the woods and all, but they're exposed to a lot of different situations.
Yep, the officers wear vests. They go through all kinds of training, but you also have to realize the people you deal with. You never know what their intentions are. A lot of people are armed, and that's the reason they go through such training. And I'll tell you, it's really made me proud over the years, the emphasis our agency puts on training.
Well, we're proud. We're proud of y'all too, and proud to be associated with you guys. On all the information y'all bring us, we appreciate it. And speaking of information, we're about to run out of time again.
Well, always enjoy being on with you, Winston.
All right, buddy. Thank you for coming on. Folks, thank y'all for watching the show. You be sure and do something good for your fellow man today, and God bless.
Thanks for joining us for Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors features hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.